President, we welcome the participation in today's meeting of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez. We thank the Secretary General for preparing the report on ending the economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed by the United States of America against Cuba. Russia, together with the overwhelming majority of members of the global community, firmly calls for the immediate lifting of the illegitimate American embargo of Cuba. All of Washington's unilateral restrictive measures against Havana limit the natural, inalienable rights not only of citizens of Cuba, but of citizens of the United States as well. They are absolutely illegal and constitute a gross violation of the fundamental principles and norms of international law. The sanctions war that Washington has unleashed to achieve its main aim, that is to say, removing a government that it does not like, is a symptomatic example of flagrant foreign policy pressure in the spirit of the famous Monroe Doctrine. They constitute pernicious interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign state and demonstrate blatant scorn for human rights and humanitarian values in general. This is becoming particularly evident now because with the spread of the coronavirus, every country needs to show political will, wisdom, and far-sightedness to move away from trade wars and sanctions and pool efforts to combat this calamity that has befallen us all on the basis of mutual understanding, solidarity, and support. Unfortunately, as the pandemic raged, we witnessed entirely inhumane, sometimes even odious steps by Washington against Havana, and the numbers speak for themselves. The total damage to the Cuban economy from the American sanctions in 2020 increased by almost 30% compared with 2019, and for the first time exceeded $5 billion. And the total harm to Cuba due to the restrictions introduced by the United States over their more than 60 years of existence has reached $144 billion. We have seen, however, all of these years, the American leadership has been harshly ratcheting up the sanctions hysteria against Cuba. The peak of this absurdity was the decision of the previous U.S. administration to include Cuba on the list of countries sponsors of terrorism, state sponsors of terrorism. Something that is absolutely unprincipled and inhumane is, we believe, the American campaign to discredit Cuban doctors, as well as sanctions against the biopharmaceutical industry, which have jeopardized the health of thousands of ordinary people in many countries of the world. We are pleased that Havana, even in these conditions, is demonstrating impressive resilience and continuing to provide assistance to other countries, providing their doctors, and Cuban medical workers' brigades have been sent to 40 states. They are providing medicines, and at the same time, including for the needs of third countries, they are developing their own coronavirus vaccine. The main aim that our partners are guided by here is clear: the selfless provision of medical assistance in the conditions of the global challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic that has befallen all of humanity. And incidentally, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome the news that the Cuban scientists have succeeded in particular in reaching the necessary level of effectiveness of one of their vaccines, and this deserves particular respect against the backdrop of the embargo. Unfortunately, for the time being, we are not seeing any visible changes on the horizon in Washington's foreign policy in respect of Cuba under the current Biden administration. All discussions about the options that the White House is supposedly considering to change their strategic policy do not find any practical expression. We hope that common sense in the American administration will be visible in the spirit of previous statements. In confirmation of our unshakable position, we intend to once again support this draft resolution demanding an end to the embargo without prior conditions. We are guided in doing so by the fundamental principles of the UN Charter that any discriminatory measures, impingements on national sovereignty, and interference in the internal affairs of sovereign states are unacceptable. We call upon all member states to show solidarity with the Cuban people in their fight for equal conditions to ensure socio-economic development, and to vote in favour of the adoption of this resolution. Thank you.